I am Mr. Dark. And these are the files they never wanted you to see. Welcome to Dark Billionaire Files. Tonight, we open file number 001. Bernie Madoff. The man behind the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. Born in New York in 1938, Bernie Madoff started with a small investment business and transformed himself into one of the most powerful names on Wall Street. He became chairman of NASDAQ, managed billions of dollars, and gained the trust of celebrities, banks, charities, and wealthy investors around the world. To the public, he was the definition of financial success. Few could imagine that behind this remarkable reputation, one of the biggest financial frauds in history was quietly taking shape.
Born in New York in 1938, Bernie Madoff started with a small investment business and slowly transformed himself into one of the most respected names on Wall Street. He became chairman of NASDAQ. He managed billions of dollars, and he gained the trust of celebrities, charities, banks, and wealthy investors around the world. To the public, Bernie Madoff was the definition of financial success. But behind this remarkable reputation, one of the biggest financial frauds in history was quietly taking shape. By the 1980s, Bernie Madoff was no longer just another man on Wall Street. He had become a name people trusted. A symbol of success, a financial genius in the eyes of the world. Wealthy families, celebrities, charities, and major institutions all wanted one thing: access to Bernie Madoff. His returns looked smooth, consistent, almost impossible, but that was the magic. Investors believed he had discovered a secret formula, a strategy so powerful that it could make money in almost any market condition. To outsiders, Bernie Madoff looked unstoppable, but behind the respect, behind the confidence, and behind the billions of dollars flowing into his hands, something dark was quietly growing. Because if the profits were real, why couldn't anyone explain how they were generated? For years, Bernie Madoff appeared untouchable. Investors trusted him, Wall Street respected him, and his clients believed they had found the safest investment in America. The profits kept coming, month after month, year after year, no matter what happened in the market. But eventually, a few people started asking questions. Simple questions, questions that should have been asked long before. How was Madoff generating such consistent returns? Why did his numbers look different from everyone else's? And why could nobody independently verify his strategy? To most investors, these concerns seemed insignificant. After all, the money was still flowing, the statements looked perfect, the profits looked real, and Bernie Madoff's reputation remained stronger than ever. But behind closed doors, financial analysts were becoming suspicious. Some experts began examining the numbers more closely. The deeper they looked, the less sense everything made. The returns were too consistent, the risk appeared too low, and the results seemed almost impossible to reproduce. Still, very few people wanted to believe something was wrong, because accepting the truth would mean questioning a man that Wall Street had trusted for decades. And that truth was far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. The illusion was beginning to crack, and soon, the entire world would see what was hiding behind it. For years, Bernie Madoff's reputation protected him. Nobody wanted to question the numbers. Nobody wanted to question the profits. And most importantly, nobody wanted to question Bernie Madoff himself. But not everyone was convinced. A few people started looking closer, much closer. One of them was a financial analyst named Harry Markopoulos. From the very beginning, something didn't feel right. The returns were too consistent, the profits were too predictable, and the strategy made no sense. Markopoulos spent years studying the numbers, again and again and again. Each time he reached the same conclusion: something was wrong, very wrong. He warned regulators. He submitted reports. He explained the evidence. He even showed them why the returns were mathematically impossible. But nobody listened. The warnings were ignored. The reports were dismissed. And Bernie Madoff continued attracting billions of dollars. The system trusted reputation more than facts, and that trust would soon become one of the most expensive mistakes in financial history. The whistleblowers had sounded the alarm, but the world wasn't ready to hear it. For years, Bernie Madoff's empire survived on trust. New money kept coming in. Old investors stayed quiet, and the illusion continued. But in 2008, everything changed. The financial world began to collapse. Banks were failing, markets were crashing, investors were panicking, and suddenly, people wanted their money back. That was the one thing a Ponzi scheme cannot survive. Madoff did not have billions sitting safely in accounts. He did not have the profits his clients believed they had earned, and he did not have the money to pay everyone back. As fear spread through the market, withdrawal requests started rising. Millions became billions, and the pressure became impossible to hide. For the first time, Bernie Madoff was running out of time. The perfect delusion was no longer strong enough. The crisis had exposed the truth, and the empire was about to collapse. By December 2008, Bernie Madoff was trapped. The markets were collapsing. Investors wanted their money back, and the money was no longer there. For years, he had created the illusion of success, but now that illusion had reached its final moment. Inside his apartment, Madoff told his sons the truth. The investment business was a lie, a giant Ponzi scheme. Billions of dollars were gone. The next day, federal agents arrived. Bernie Madoff was arrested. The man Wall Street had trusted for decades was now standing at the center of the biggest financial fraud in history. The world was stunned. His clients were devastated, and the empire he had built collapsed overnight. For the first time, everyone could see the truth. Bernie Madoff was not a genius. He was not a financial magician. He was the architect of a lie that lasted for decades. When the truth finally came out, the numbers were almost impossible to believe. Bernie Madoff had not stolen a few $1,000,000. He had not fooled a small group of investors. He had built one of the largest Ponzi schemes the world had ever seen. The reported losses reached nearly $65 billion. Families were destroyed. Retirement savings disappeared. Charities lost money they had spent years collecting. And thousands of people were left asking the same question: how did this happen? For decades, Madoff had sold one thing better than anyone else: trust. He looked successful. He sounded confident. And he stood inside the world of money, like someone who belonged there. But behind that image, there was no secret strategy, no magic formula, no genius system, only new money being used to pay old investors. That was the truth. Simple, dark, and devastating. Bernie Madoff did not just steal money. He stole time. He stole security. He stole futures. And most of all, he stole trust. And once trust is gone, it almost never comes back. Bernie Madoff's story was not just about money. It was about trust. For decades, people believed him, not because they understood the strategy, not because they verified the numbers, but because everyone else trusted him too. That was the real trap. Reputation became proof, confidence became evidence, and silence became protection. Madoff did not need a gun. He did not need force. He only needed people to believe that he was too successful to question. And that is what made the scam so dangerous. Because the biggest lies do not always look like lies. Sometimes they look like success. They look like safety. They look like trust. Bernie Madoff built an empire on illusion. And when it collapsed, it did not just destroy money. It destroyed faith. Thousands of people learned the same lesson the hard way. If something looks perfect, if nobody can explain it, and if everyone tells you not to question it, maybe that is exactly when you should start asking questions. This was file number 001. Bernie Madoff, the man who sold trust and destroyed it. Bernie Madoff fooled the world for years, but in the end, the truth always found its way out. History doesn't just remember success, it remembers the lies behind it. This was file number 001 from the Dark Billionaire Files. If you enjoy real stories, real investigations, and the truth behind the world's darkest fortunes, subscribe and become part of the Dark Billionaire Files. Leave a comment below and tell me which billionaire, company, or financial mystery should be our next investigation. And if you enjoyed this documentary, leave a like. It helps this investigation reach more people, because every file tells a story, every story hides a secret, and every secret has a price. I'm Mr. Dark. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next file.